It's August 30th, 2023. It's This Week in Comics. Hello everyone and welcome to the August 30th, 2023 This Week in Comics. We've got a few number ones to get to, a bunch of specials to get to, the end of one series, a bunch of number threes weirdly this week. Let's go.
Moon Knight, Annual Number 1, written by Jed Mackey, art by Arif Prianto and Kreese Lee.
Moon Knight battles Taguchi from Tiger Division in the latest round of the Contest of Chaos. Now, both of these guys end up battling through different forms of who they are throughout the multiverses, but it's actually a decision by Moon Knight that decides the fight.
Corrosion ends up coming for Agatha by the end of the issue, but her chaos-powered winners of the Contest of Chaos end up fighting him back.
This issue had an entertaining fight and good plot development, especially with the Contest of Chaos. Moon Knight Annual Number 1 is a 7.5 out of 10.
Night Terrors, Night's End, Number 1, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Howard Porter, Giuseppe Camuncoli, Stefano Nessi, Trevor Hairsine, and Rain Barreto.
This is the end of Night Terrors, and the first half of the issue kind of meanders about, and the art is way less refined than it's been in previous issues.
The resolution to Insomnia's attack, the payoffs of all the storylines, where the DC universe is headed, it's actually quite exciting. Who is Dr. Hate?
I hope we find out soon. Night Terrors Night's End is a 7.5 out of 10. It's a good ending to the miniseries, but like a couple issues in this series, it drags its feet trying to get there.
Action Comics presents Doomsday Special Number 1, written by Dan Watters, art by Eddie Barrows, Eber Ferreira, and Adriana Lucas.
In this issue, Doomsday is trapped in hell and he's trying to escape.
Kara Zor-El and the Martian Manhunter end up getting pulled into hell by the devil to try to prevent the escape of Doomsday because he thinks they're the only ones that can stop him.
This issue is action-packed, and with an interesting backup story about the Superman of Hell, this special number 1 issue for Doomsday is easily an 8 out of 10, and if you're an Action Comics or Superman fan, you should be very excited.
Nort's Swimsuit Edition. Baywatch, written by Julian Shauna Benson, art by Megan Hetrick and Marissa Louise. Out There, written by Steve Orlando, art by Paul Peltier, Norm Ratman, and Adriana Lucas.
Baywatch involves the women of DC, and it's campy and kitschy, sort of like a Gidget movie, and not in a great way. Out There is a reprint from a 2020 story, and I like it because I love Monsieur Mala and Brain. However, why does this comic exist? Who is calling for this? And if you're wondering why I reviewed it, it's because I couldn't pick up my Image comics this week. If you like the uncovered issues of other series where you get the covers and all the variants collected together, then maybe check this out as all the swimsuit variants are here. But woof, North Swimsuit Edition is a 4 out of 10.
The Hunger in the Dusk Number 2 by G. Willow Wilson, art by Chris Wildgoose and Mosaic.
The story of the orcs and the humans and the Vanguard continue, and we actually get to see the Vanguard this issue.
I don't want to spoil anything this issue, so I'll say it's brilliantly paced, as well as we spend enough time with each character, we spend enough time with each story to leave you wanting more and leave you excited.
The Hunger in the Dusk continues its favorable run with an 8.5 out of 10.
Ultimate Invasion Number 3, written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Brian Hitch, Andrew Curry, and Alex Sinclair.
It's becoming clearer and clearer that not knowing the Ultimate Universe is detrimental to enjoying this comic book.
My only preview of the action would be this, and if you're thinking to yourself that they're just talking, well, this issue is just talking, and a little bit more talking.
There is a cool reveal at the end, but that can't save an entire issue. Ultimate Invasion Number 3 is a 6 out of 10.
SpiderMan India Number 3, written by Nikesh Shukla, art by Tedem Giotto, Scott Hanna, Elizabeth D'Amico, and Naraje McKinnon.
I do apologize because I probably butchered most of those names. In what was the weakest issue of Spider-Man India so far, Pav realizes that Pav and Spider-Man are the same person, and the two different personas really cannot war with each other.
Feeling a bit rushed and at times also meandering, I think this series could have benefited from being 5 issues instead of 4.
Unfortunately, being the weakest issue, Spider-Man India Number 3 is a 6 out of 10.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vs. Street Fighter Number 3, written by Paul Aller, art by Sarah Meyer and Ariel Metal.
Crossover events between intellectual properties can be hard, and this is no exception.
The story and the art and everything are okay, but they're just okay, and honestly, I would say they're not good. Okay at best.
I find myself wanting to like this series rather than actually liking it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Street Fighter number 3 is a 6 out of 10.
The Incredible Hulk number 3, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, art by Nick Klein and Matthew Wilson.
A monstrous issue with Brother Deep finally rising from the depths, and Charlie looking for the Hulk for a companion instead of Banner, and the Hulk eventually relenting in this issue.
Hulk wants Banner gone, and Charlie is going to help.
Pulsating art and a fun chapter mean The Incredible Hulk number 3 is an 8 out of 10.
Deadpool Batter Blood number 3, written by Rob Liefeld and Chad Bowers, art by Rob Liefeld and J. David Ramos.
Deadpool Batter Blood continues to display insanely great art around a half-baked and underserved story.
It's like they have all the set pieces in place, but nothing in between to make the set pieces matter.
The art continues to save what is otherwise just an okay series. Deadpool Batter Blood number 3 is a 6.5 out of 10.
Death of the Venomverse number 3, written by Cullen Bunn, art by Gerardo Sandoval, Victor Olazaba, Jim Campbell.
The main story does a better job this week, but it's still a little bit all over the place with Venoms, anti-Venoms, anti-Carnages, Carnages, sisters, everything like that.
The throwback middle story, I'm still not exactly sure where it's going, and the Kid Venom story is always great, but it's always super short.
I loved Extreme Venomverse, and I loved all the different versions of Venom. However, this series has kind of dropped the ball, and it's a bit of a slog at times. Right now, Death of the Venomverse number 3 is a 6.5 out of 10.
Marvel Age 1000. First story is Machine Learning, written by Mark Waid, art by Alessandro Capuccio and Mattia Iannaccio. In this, a man-made Human Torch learns what morality is and his moral code from a radio serial called High Heat about a police officer. It's a good allegory about how superhero stories can teach us how to be morally correct, and it has great art. The first story is a 7.5 out of 10. Second story, Sunday Dinner, written by Ryan Stegman, art by VP Mayer and Dave McKay. This is a typical story with Spider-Man, a Peter Parker story where being Spider-Man gets in the way of being Peter Parker. It's light, it's breezy, it's easy, it's got decent art. It's a 7 out of 10. The third story, People Wonder Why, written by Rainbow Rowell and art by Marguerite Savage. This is a cute and well-drawn Scott Summers and Jean Grey's story that highlights being young and in love and on a team that's constantly fighting evil. This story is a 7 out of 10. The fourth story is Earth's Greatest Weapon, written by Dan Slott with art by Michael and Laura Ulrich. In this story, Mar-Vell actually blows up Orpheus 1, a rocket, because Supremor tells him to. However, it was just a rocket that was sending music and trinkets from the humans out into space so that anyone could enjoy them should they come across it. It's light, it's breezy, it's easy, just like the Spider-Man story. 7 out of 10. The fifth story is Overload, written by Armando Iannucci, art by Adam Kubert and Frank Martin. In this story, an older Matt Murdock develops tinnitus in his ear, and whenever anybody lies, he gets a sensory overload. It is a super interesting and entertaining story with fantastic art. It's one of my favorites in this book. It's an 8 out of 10. The sixth story is Silver Surfer Dead Heaven, written and art by Steve McNiven. Silver Surfer Dead Heaven is a story about the worst of humanity and how the surfer bucks against the worst of humanity. The art is so well done. I would definitely read this story no matter what. Silver Surfer Dead Heaven is an 8 out of 10. The Girl Who Hates Superheroes, written by Jason Aaron, art by Pepe Larraz and Alejandro Sanchez. A teen in New York who grows up hating superheroes and hates seeing them ends up having an encounter with Jane Foster's Thor. And Jane, who's too far away from her hammer for too long, ends up being depowered and cancer-ridden right in front of the girl. And the girl realizes that sometimes heroes have just as big of problems as we do. The art in this is fantastic, the story is really well done, and it makes sense why she would now have her superhero. This story is an 8 out of 10. The last story is Observations from the Backyard, written by J. Michael Straczynski with art by Care Andrews. The Marvel Universe is created in a backyard as Steve, Jack, and Stan look through a fence and see all the stories that they're eventually going to write and try to get all of the information and all the imagery down correctly. It's a fun little story with a neat idea as to how the Marvel Universe started. This story is an 8 out of 10. Last but not least is the Riddler Year 1 number 6, written by Paul Dano with art by Steven Subich. Last but not least, because this is the end of the Riddler Year 1, written by Paul Dano, art by Steven Subich.
I'm going to start this by saying I love Matt Reeves, the Batman. It's my favorite Batman. Admittedly, I was skeptical when actor Paul Dano wanted to write a comic book to kind of flesh out the backstory of his version of the Riddler. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. This comic takes you inside the mind of the Riddler, unlike any comic that I've read before. Subich's art is watery and flowing. It's surreal. Everything that leads Edward Nashton into becoming the Riddler is here in this comic, especially this issue here, which is written across his ledgers as he's an accountant. It's haunting. It's righteous. If you're a fan of the movie The Batman, then it's a definite must-read. I loved this comic so much. The Riddler, Year 1 by Paul Dano and Steven Subich. 9 out of 10, must read, especially if you like the movies, especially if you want a good villain comic. That's all of our comics for this week, August 30th. Let's check in with the first week of September. The Birds of Prey, number 1 by Kelly Thompson. City Boy, number 4. The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, number 10. The Justice Society, number 6. Peacemaker Tries Hard, number 5. Poison Ivy, number 14. Shazam, number 3. Sacrificers, number 2. Scarlet Witch, number 8. Silk, number 5. Spider-Gwen Annual, number 1. This is actually part of the Contest of Chaos. Blue Beetle, number 1. Now this week, the Image Truck didn't come to my comic shop, so next week I'm hoping to be able to review World Tree number 5, which came out this week, and Local Man Gold number 1. If you guys already picked it up, awesome. I'll review it next week. Alright guys, that's it for everything comics this week. Let's check in with some TV. My Adventures with Superman, episode number 9. It's in this episode that we learn that Waller and the General go way back. But as the General finds out more about Superman, he has his doubts that Clark is evil. However, Parasite and all the other goons that the General and Waller have had break out and end up powering up Parasite in order to kill Clark. Now, the Newsboys, Jimmy, Lois, everyone is looking for Clark, and they eventually find him. However, the city of Metropolis, the power, Parasite is stealing and getting bigger and bigger. So, Flamebird, aka Jimmy, makes an appeal to all the citizens of Metropolis. Turn off your power. Depower Parasite. Which they do. The citizens finally come to the aid of Clark, and Clark is the hero. He wins. He gets the girl. But at the very end of the episode, we learn that Waller takes over Task Force X, and her plan is to take out Superman, and Jimmy finds the orb that Lois has already found, which shows that Clark can be an invasive invader, an evil Clark Kent. This show is awesome. I love it. It's so much fun. Another 8.5 out of 10. Alrighty guys, this week the Eat, Kill, Bang trade paperback came out for Harley Quinn, the animated series. However, this is the trade paperback that exists between seasons 2 and 3, not between seasons 3 and 4. Seasons 3 and 4, the trade paperback in between is Legion of Bats. That actually comes out September 12th. So I'll be caught up by September 12th, but I'll touch in on the episodes that I've already watched. The first 2 episodes were great, but having read the Legion of Bats, they're kind of retreading some of the territory that's covered in the comics, especially with Ivy coming in and it being all males on the team. The whole point of the comic book is that she wants a female Legion of Doom. So we'll check in on that as we go. However, I did not read the Eat, Kill, Bang tour, and we'll have to do that another time. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for August 30th. We'll check back in on September 6th. I'm Dustin Dry, your bumbling guide here at 2birdstoned815 is always the handle, at 2birdstoned815 on TikTok, at 2birdstoned815 on the YouTube. Check in with us every week. I'm bumbling around. I'm trying to give you good advice, but occasionally I get it wrong. That's going to do it for another great week. Let's fade it to black and let's hit the music.